Spring is supposed to be fresh, lighter, full of energy. So why are you more anxious right now? If longer days bring insomnia, restlessness, anxiety symptoms, or even PTSD flare-ups instead of motivation, this episode is for you. Today we're unpacking Spring Summer Seasonal Affective Disorder, nervous system overload, and we're going to provide you with some practical solutions to help you regulate and stabilize your sleep and move through this season transition with wisdom instead of overwhelm. Do you want to achieve your goals, but anxiety is tripping you up? Like to keep those fun weekend plans, but depression has you counseling again? Hey, I'm Lori, dog mom, lover of nature, and hygge enthusiast. Positive psychology skills help me overcome chronic severe PTSD. If you're ready to learn how to overcome your anxiety and depression and rediscover happiness and purpose in life, then get your cozy on and let's get started. Welcome back to Practical Solutions for PTSD. Today I'm going to do something they actually tell you not to do. And that is to talk about something I don't completely understand. And that is Spring Seasonal Affective Disorder. I do experience and deal with fall-winter seasonal affective disorder. I do not deal with spring. In fact, right now, as we're getting into spring, and I'm recording this on March the 2nd. So I am super excited because the days are getting longer, it's warming up. Gardening season is literally just around the corner. I cannot wait to get my hands in the dirt. And so I'm super stoked about spring. Emotionally, intuitively, when somebody talks to me about seasonal affective disorder related to spring, summer, I'm like, what? Are you crazy? But I know it's real. In fact, my housemate, I actually sat her down the other day. I was like, can you please help me? Because she deals with this. This is when she struggles emotionally. A little bit in the spring, more so in late summer. And that's when it really affects her, as opposed to, for me, it's fall and winter. And she's sitting there going, man, this is perfect. So we're like two sides of the same coin. She's spring, summer, I'm summer, winter, or fall, winter. So today we're going to jump in and talk about that. But before we do, I want to be able to tell you about my anxiety and depression breakthrough coaching. So I know if you've experienced seasonal affective disorder on any of the seasons, I'm sure you've probably asked yourself, what is wrong with me? I know I have many times. And why do I feel better for a few days and then I just spiral again? Why does nothing seem to work, especially when it's stuff that your quote should be doing and you've tried it and it didn't work? So maybe you've tried reading books or you've listened to your favorite podcast. Woohoo! You're prayed harder, you sang harder, you tried to push through it. You avoided stress completely. You've tried all this stuff and nothing seems to work. Your anxiety systems in your body won't settle. The chronic stress never seems to power down. Guilt for not being more productive, being more joyful, more steady continues to persist. Isolation begins to feel safer than explaining to people what's going on. And loneliness, you don't always say it out loud, but it seems to constantly haunt you in the back of your mind. So what is missing is not willpower, because you've worked at this, you've tried really hard. What's missing is knowing what works for you personally. So how does your character strengths, the things that you bring to the table personally, how does that help you fight against seasonal affective disorder? What are some keys that would work for you that would be very personal? Or that accountability, maybe you need some accountability to get you started that could help you get over that hump and see a measurable change. And that's exactly what we do inside this coaching framework. We do not work with generic stuff. We try to really build a personally structured system specifically adapted to your personality, to your character strengths, and the way that your body and mind and soul can hear and absorb the information the most effective. So if this is something you would like to work with me on, you can reach out and schedule an appointment. You can go to practicalsolutions4ptsd.com/breakthrough. You can schedule your 60-minute coaching session with me. Again, you can go to practicalsolutions4ptsd.com/breakthrough and get an appointment set up today, and we'll work with you on that. Spring seasonal affective disorder. I mentioned earlier, I sat down with my housemate. Her name is Ann. I sat down with her and talked to her. I'm like, okay, help me to understand this a little bit better so I make sure that I'm communicating this effectively. I did do some research on it. Seasonal affective disorder is a smaller group of a specific kind of depression, but 75% of those people within that group are fall winter. So there's very small group of people that deal with spring summer seasonal affective disorder, but it's still very real. I mean, it's very real for Anne. I may not understand it, but it's very real. And so, understanding what's driving this, there's not as much information on it as the fall winter, but they do have some. And some of it's theoretical. So, we're just going to kind of throw some stuff out there, try to help you out. And then I have either 6 or 7 tips for you on how you can treat that and affect it. So, spring seasonal affective disorder, sometimes called reverse seasonal depression. This a lot of times common symptoms would include insomnia or disrupted sleep, anxiety, agitation, irritability, restlessness or nervous energy. You have less appetite, maybe some weight loss. Usually for me, it's weight gain for the fall winter. Just saying, I wouldn't mind the weight loss part. Mood instability or depressive symptoms could also be part of the spring SADS. So, with the winter fall, you feel like you're going into emotional hibernation, and I totally relate to that. With spring, it often feels like emotional overstimulation. And some of this is probably most likely due to the fact that spring, summer, and the time change, for those of you that go through that, happens all at the same time. And so you're going from very limited light to all of a sudden a whole bunch of light exposure, not just because of the season progressing into spring, but also the time change that pushes you into that much, much faster. And all of a sudden, bam, you've got all this light everywhere. The leading theories on why spring SADS happens is one is your circadian rhythm whiplash. And we'll talk about this multiple times throughout the podcast today, but your sleep and your circadian rhythm is crucial. It is crucial to dealing with seasonal affective disorder of any kind, but it becomes really important in the spring and summer. You have this sudden change in tempo from the nice, cozy, dark days of winter that are driving the rest of us crazy. You guys are enjoying it. Like, you love the cooler weather, you like the darker weather, it's more relaxing, you're chilling. It's nice to have the lower op tempo where you're not going so fast and doing so much stuff. And all of a sudden you're bam, and you're lots more sun, there's more social engagement, and it's messing up your biological clock. So you have rapid increase in morning light, which shifts your biological clock very abruptly, and this is magnified by the time change. This creates a mismatch between your internal clock and your environmental light, and this mismatch disrupts your mood, your sleep, and your emotional regulation. And if you're a trauma survivor, the circadian rhythm stability is already a bit fragile anyway, and so this is going to affect you even more. The second theory is melatonin suppression and sleep disruption. So melatonin, we talked about this with the fall and winter seasonal affective disorder, but melatonin and serotonin are keys in the whole seasonal affective disorder thing. So melatonin, the more you have, the more sleepy you are, the more you want to sleep, and et cetera, et cetera. And it affects your serotonin production by decreasing it, which affects your mood. And this is what is driving fall winter, at least in part, it's what's driving fall winter seasonal affective disorder. Well, in the spring, your melatonin goes down, and the sunlight goes up, and your serotonin production is the whole steady serotonin production gets disrupted. Now, this is actually helpful for those of us that have fall winter seasonal affective disorder. When we hit that decrease in melatonin, increase in serotonin, we're like, woohoo! But it's causing issues for those that have the spring summer SADS. The longer days, the shorter nights reduce that production, which means they're not sleeping as much. Because the lower melatonin disrupts sleep quality and emotional recovery, and this contributes to an increase in anxiety, agitation, and depressive symptoms. Sleep disruptions alone can destabilize mood, and this is for anyone, regardless of who you are. It will affect you more or less. but it can really affect your mood because it impacts regions of the brain like the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex, which controls behavior and, like gets you away from instinctive behavior and stuff where you're actually thinking through it. And your prefrontal cortex, your amygdala handles a lot of your emotions. And so when your sleep deregulation or destabilization will automatically is going to impact that, and more or less depending on what other issues you have going on. So, as I said earlier, when your melatonin production goes down, your serotonin is going to go up, but it's deregulating it from what you're used to. So, for those that have spring summer SADS, this disruption is like, wow, you start getting overly stimulated emotionally, which can increase your mood instability. And that rapid seasonal light shift can destabilize that serotonin production for those people that are vulnerable to that in the spring, summer. The fourth leading theory is nervous system overactivation. So not just the sensory, because you're getting more light and your serotonin is disrupted because your melatonin went down, and so your serotonin is kind of whacked out a little bit. But you're also having more social engagements because that's when people are, oh yay, we're free for the winter, we're going to get out and do all this fun stuff, and they're asking you to meet up, and there's a lot more stuff going on, and it can become too much and be overstimulating to the system and can kind of make you shut down a little bit. Also, if your warmer temperatures can just be disrupting your sleep, which again, sleep is so critically important to combat SADS, especially spring summer SADS. And then you have allergies and inflammation that can be affecting your mood. So you have the spring allergies coming in, and that's going to be driving some disruption to your whole circadian rhythm and your sleep cycles, which is going to cause that to worsen just a little bit for the summer. And this is particularly relevant for those people that are dealing with trauma recovery, because this is going to trigger or activate the nervous system. So you could be dealing with hyperarousal, emotional flooding, anxiety spikes, and all this other stuff that comes with it. Just like what you do with winter SADS, although fall winter typically leads to shutdown, the spring SADS leads to being emotionally overloaded. All right, so we're going to talk about some proven things that you can do to help counter spring summer seasonal affective disorder. And some of these would work for anyone, for any kind of situation. They're good practical principles, but they become increasingly important for those with spring summer SADS. The number one most important intervention you can do is to anchor your circadian rhythm. This is critically important for those with spring SADS. Spring summer. So consistency helps regulate your mood more than anything else. So those daily anchors, waking up at the same time every day, sleeping at the same time every night, eating meals in a consistent schedule, getting early morning light exposure or morning light exposure early in the day. All these will help regulate your circadian rhythm. And that goes for everyone. It's just critically important for someone dealing with spring summer SADS. So you can think of this as setting your nervous system clock, getting that consistency. Now, I know it's not always possible. In fact, Anne, it's not possible for her because of the job that she works. She has a very flexible schedule. She doesn't work the same hours every day. But as much as possible, this is really, really important for you to nail down, and it will help you combat that and keep you from sliding down the SADS path too far this spring as we're heading into spring. Number two is to control light exposure strategically. Now, I alluded to this a little bit when I was talking about those anchors, but spring SADS is often too much light too fast. So some helpful adjustments is to get out in the morning light when the sun's at a lower level and that light is very gentle. Getting that light early can help. One, it helps wake you up and know that it's time for you to get moving. It's a good practice for a lot of us. But that gentle light is gentle exposure. Instead of just bam, while walking into the sun when it's at a 10 o'clock angle is higher in the sky and it's very overwhelming, that gentler light can help introduce you to the light a lot easier on your system. It's a lot easier on your system if you do it that way. And then the other thing is in the evenings, you want to reduce your artificial light exposure after sunset. I've talked about this before with fall-winter seasonal affective disorder. So this is an overarching principle to control your light exposure, be very intentional. But if you can reduce the artificial lights to a softer beam. Now, I use a lot of ambient light in this house, but Anne often tells me, Lori, the light is still too bright. Even though I've got ambient lights going, sometimes the angle of it seems to affect her more. And so just be conscious of that. And maybe in the evenings, instead of having overhead lights or lights high up, you have them low down. And like literally, logistically, like they're lower in the house, like the table lamps and stuff, as opposed to lamps up higher. And it reduces the intensity of the light and makes it a little easier on you. The other thing is to limit screen time 1 to 2 hours before bed. And if you are going to be on the screen, make sure you have it set to night mode. And additionally, it would help if you had blue light filter glasses on, even if it's no prescription glasses. But if it helps filter out that blue light, it will reduce the impact of what your system is getting for the light exposure. Tip number 3 is to prioritize nervous system regulation daily. So again, with seasonal affective disorder in the spring and summer, your problem is overstimulation. You've got too much coming at you, whether it be too much light or too much social engagement, too much whatever, it's just too much. So it becomes really important to regulate your system. And you can use things like slow breathing or stretching exercises similar to like Pilates or yoga, Tai Chi, something like that, that can help you just kind of gentle stretching. Walking outdoors, this would be a good idea, like in the early mornings or in the late afternoon, early evenings when the sun is gentler, to be able to do some of that. Also, exercise reduces anxiety and depression symptoms because it actually, movement helps metabolize stress hormones. Isn't that cool? So doing that can really help you. And then also using some mindfulness to kind of keep you grounded and to help you just to be present in the moment, that can make a big difference as well in helping you to regulate your nervous system. Tip number 4 is to protect your sleep aggressively. Now, this is something that we hadn't really connected the dots until we were talking the other day, but Anne has aggressively protected her sleep for years, because she knows that's the only way that she can manage to make it through her day without getting super grumpy or just being dysfunctional or whatever. She is very aggressively protective of her sleep. And it's really, really important for people with SADS or depression of any kind, really, but with SADS, with your spring, summer SADS, this becomes important that you do things like having a cool, dark sleep environment, have a consistent bedtime routine. So even if you can't get to bed the same time every day because your schedule is unpredictable, if you could at least have a routine, it helps prepare the mind and body for sleep and helps trigger, like your brain's like, oh, it's time for us to go to bed because she's doing X, Y, and Z. Then I know I need to get ready for sleep. It helps trigger the brain to say, okay, I need to go to bed. Avoid caffeine late in the day, avoid late night stimulation. So you're not going to want to watch a scary movie, then try to go to sleep. Kind of minimize that stimulation in the evening. Sleep. This is why you're protecting it so aggressively. Sleep stabilizes serotonin, dopamine, and emotional regulation system. So for those of you that may not be familiar, serotonin and dopamine are 2 of your primary feel-good hormones. Sleep will really, really make a big difference in those hormone productions and also other emotion regulation systems. So aggressively protect your sleep. Tip number 5 is reduce nervous system overload. Spring often increases stimulation suddenly. And we've already talked about this. You have lots of light all of a sudden, and then people are like, yay, spring, summer, let's do stuff. And you're like, go away. So a couple things to keep in mind is balance activation with recovery. So make sure that you're building in enough time. When you do social engagements, you're building in enough time to kind of decompress a little bit. Limit your overcommitment. Make sure that you're building in time to say no. Here's your free hall pass to say no. You don't have to say yes to everything. Say no sometimes. Limit that overcommitment. Schedule recovery time. Reduce sensory overload. So maybe you're going, like, your friends are having this party, they want you to come over, you go, that's fine. But maybe only stay for an hour and then head out. And maybe have some quiet time on the way home, or no music, or just whatever it is that helps you chill out. But pace those social interactions, be very intentional about it and draw some healthy boundaries around that. So as you're headed into spring and summer, you know it's coming. It's right around the corner. There's going to be all this stuff coming up. Just set some boundaries right now. Like, I will do this much, but not that much. I'm not going to go overboard, et cetera, et cetera. Just keep that in mind and put those boundaries in place. It'll help protect you and keep your emotions healthy. So maintain emotional and social connection. So this is something that's very easy. Anytime you're dealing with depression of any kind, you really kind of want to go down a rabbit hole and go into isolation, social isolation. It's very easy to go there. But it worsens depression of any kind, including seasonal depression. So you want to protect your connection. So when I'm talking about, the step before was to limit overcommitment and make sure you're not overstimulating yourself, but you don't want to cut it off completely. It's really important that you stay engaged to some degree. Make sure that you have a consistent social routine. You have those supportive relationships in place. If you need it, make sure you're using therapy or coaching. But you want to maintain those social connections to keep you from going into social isolation and increasing that loneliness and a whole bunch of other things, making the depression worse. The last tip I'm going to leave you with today is find those things that bring you joy and carve out time to enjoy them. This is so, so, so important in dealing with, I believe, any form of depression, but it has done wonders for me in my winter depression. And when I was talking to Ann the other night, she does the same thing for those months that hit her really hard. Like last year, she made a point to carve out time to learn French. She loves to learn, love of learning. French is something she's always wanted to learn. So she scheduled that during the month that she knew was going to be particularly difficult for her. And it really, really helped. It has made a world of difference for me. I've talked about this before. I love plants. I love green things. And so I created a space on my front porch, which is like a 3-season room, and made it like a mini conservatory. And I put my office out here. So sun and plants, and it's bright and shiny. And has helped so much. Twinkle lights. I love twinkle lights. Having those on gray, rainy days really makes a difference. So finding stuff that you love and making sure you carve out time for that in those months that is particularly difficult, they will really, really help you. It feeds your soul and helps you through those hard times. Just to wrap it up, those 7 tips I just gave you was to anchor your circadian rhythm. Super, super important. The most important thing you could do. Number 2 was to control your light exposure strategically. Number 3 was to prioritize nervous system regulation on a daily basis. Protect your sleep aggressively was number 4. Number 5 is to reduce nervous system overload. Number 6 is to maintain emotional and social connections. And number 7 is to find those things that bring you joy. And I want to give you this challenge as we wrap it up. Find something that brings you joy. Write it down. Remember it. Catalog it. Whatever you need to do. And make sure you're carving out time for that. In that month, your month, whatever that is, October, it could be August, it could be January, whatever month it is that is difficult for you, carve out time to really enjoy those things and watch the difference that they can make in your own life. For more details on the Anxiety and Depression Breakthrough Coaching Session, you can go to practicalsolutionsforptsd.com/breakthrough. You'll find details on the program and a link to sign up. Hey, my friend, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with someone you know who may be struggling with depression and anxiety? Also, would you please leave a quick review for the show? Knowing how this podcast is helping you fills my heart with so much joy, and it motivates me for future episodes. For now, it's time for Sam and I to head outside to enjoy some sunshine and fresh air. We'll see you back here on Tuesdays and Thursdays for more great episodes.